By the middle of the 23rd century, the Greater Terran Union had earned the respect, if not the admiration, of its interstellar neighbors. The occupation and annexation of the comparatively primitive Wasari civilization had demonstrated the effectiveness of the Union's military, but also raised new questions on how these and other aliens might one day be integrated. For many, the death of former High Marshal Natasha Fox seemed to mark the end of the beginning, and billions paid tribute, not only on Earth, but across the colonies and outposts that now stretched to the very edge of the Outer Rim. The Greater Terran Union had intended to seize critical resources before their expanding list of rivals, but the exploration of the Outer Rim brought with it unparalleled dangers. An enormous Leviathan, a living creature larger than any ship in the Terran fleet, was detected drifting amongst the frontier, while just 2 years later, a vast graveyard of derelict alien ships was uncovered, scattered around a lonely star and broken worlds. This latter discovery intrigued the Union's leadership, who assembled a task force to uncover whatever mysteries might lay there. When the fleet arrived, the potential benefits seemed unimaginable. Hundreds of thousands of alien starships just waiting to be picked apart and studied. The fleet was not alone, however. Among the drifting debris, an incredible mechanical construct sifted through the wreckage, scavenging useful parts to add to its own patchwork configuration. Only a few of the Union ships returned. The rest became the newest additions to the system-wide graveyard. Whether the machine it encountered was the sole survivor of some great battle or a scavenger from some distant nation remains unknown, but it was clear that the Greater Terran Union had begun to meddle in affairs far beyond its understanding. The disaster in the Outer Rim had weakened Fleet Command at the most inopportune moment. Tensions had begun to flare between the United Clans of Skiron and the Rixian Galactic Directorate. The Union had committed to a mutual defensive pact with the United Clans, but with Fleet Command under strength, the Directorate was emboldened. On February 16, 2263, the Rixian Galactic Directorate, together with the Volhive, declared war upon the United Clans of Skiron. The Greater Terran Union honored its commitment and immediately entered the war, issuing its first mass mobilization orders since the end of the Great Invasion. It took nearly a year for Fleet Command to recover its strength, and by then, the United Clans had lost nearly half their territory, with their capital and core worlds under siege. In a bold attempt to quickly force the Union out of the war, a Rixian fleet attacked Fleet Station Thermopylae. Unbeknownst to them, however, newly deployed Terran sensors and intelligence from the United Clans of Skiron had spotted the fleet's approach. When the Rixians arrived in the Thermopylae system, the combined might of the Greater Terran Union was waiting for them. The Battle of Thermopylae was decisive. Terran warships left behind only burning hulks and launched an enormous offensive into Rixian territory. Within months, Land Force Command had occupied several alien worlds, perfecting doctrines and strategies first utilized against the Wasari. But even as the Rixian Galactic Directorate and Volhive began making overtures for an armistice, the Phyraxian Union, which had so far remained neutral, launched a surprise attack into the weakened clans of Skiron. Faced with a much more powerful threat, the GTU accepted the Rixian peace proposal, seizing 3 systems but lacking the means to defend or govern them. Fleet and Land Command were redeployed to the Phyraxian border, but the economy had already been strained by years of war, and the home front had begun to suffer. Unable to sustain a second prolonged conflict, the Greater Terran Union launched a blitzkrieg into the Phyraxian Union, swiftly taking multiple star systems. As the military was pushed to its limits, High Marshal Lee Martin took the extraordinary step to grant lower tiers of citizenship to the Wasari, allowing them to enlist in the Merchant Marine and other auxiliary forces. Despite a series of strategic victories, the Greater Terran Union was too distant to fully reinforce the United Clans of Skiron, and when the Algan Republic finally entered the war on the side of the Phyraxians, its fate was sealed. While the Terran-Algan border remained heavily fortified, the clans were on the verge of collapse and were forced to surrender. In 2285, the Skiron campaigns came to an end. The Greater Terran Union seized several critical systems during the campaigns, but the effort had depleted their economy and the national reserves. Many of the fleets mobilized during the war were scrapped, and without the means to defend the remaining Skiron rump state, the GTU withdrew from their defensive pact. As the Terran Union entered an economic depression, it struggled to fortify and reinforce the new systems it had taken during the previous campaigns. Worse still was how hundreds of millions of Phyraxian and Rixian citizens, now living in GTU territory, would be integrated. Riots, revolts, and strikes plagued these newly acquired territories, necessitating the deployment of further ground forces and the implementation of martial law. The Wasari, by contrast, had acquitted themselves admirably during the conflict, serving alongside human soldiers and sailors. While restricted to auxiliary and logistics units, some Wasari units had come under fire during the Skiron campaigns, and their devotion to the Greater Terran Union was widely praised. In 2291, the Wasari Commissariat was established, containing the Wasari homeworld and several surrounding systems. The highest tiers of citizenship remained exclusively human, but the Wasari were free to travel and serve across the breadth of the Union, which, for the first time, was now their Union as well. Humanity had not only survived its first interstellar wars, but gained new worlds and peoples. Paradoxically, the conflict helped foster support for the GTU's loyal non-human residents, while fermenting hatred against neighboring alien peoples. Aliens might never be fully accepted, but at least some were tolerated, and their literature, art, ideals, and culture spread across the Union. Children's plushie toys bore the likeness of distant races, while those same creatures were meticulously and cruelly studied in secret facilities for weaknesses. All the while, GTU propaganda espoused humanity's greatest virtues, accomplishments, and sacrifices. While historians evoked unflattering comparisons to the imperialist eras of the 19th and 20th centuries, it was increasingly seen as humanity's role to pacify and bring to order the chaotic elements of the galaxy. The Rixian Galactic Directorate, Volhive, Phyraxian Union, and the Algan Republic had all been outmatched both in orbit and planetside, but with the fall of the United Clans of Skiron, the Greater Terran Union was left to face them alone. Still greater threats have emerged on the far edge of human colonization efforts, with the Perinisti Union and the Sooth-Vel Confederacy closing their borders and fortifying their positions. But the Greater Terran Union has not sat idle. As pristine worlds are claimed and the economy strengthened, advanced ships have entered service of a size and power never before seen. New technologies have been mastered, and the pure human will that founded and sustained the Greater Terran Union has not once faltered. In the century since its first ships left the solar system, Earth has been transformed from a battered world still recovering from invasion to the capital of an interstellar nation. Humanity has awoken, and now the galaxy will see its might. In Stellaris Invicta, the Templin Institute guides the Greater Terran Union into an uncertain future, one you can influence. Every Saturday, we'll live stream our progress on our Twitch channel, and viewers and patrons will have the opportunity to vote on decisions, help name planets, ships, leaders, and more. If you missed the live stream, you can catch up on what happened when the stream is published the next day to the Templin Archives channel. Then, once a month, we'll produce a video like this one, detailing everything that's progressed in the Greater Terran Union's struggle to achieve galactic supremacy. The next live stream of Stellaris Invicta begins 1 hour after this video has gone live. We hope to see you among the stars.